Excellent. Thank you so much. Welcome everyone to ACDT number 67. Today is January 26th of 2026. Yeah, let's get just started. I shared the agenda in the chat for everyone to see. First of all, we can get started with the glance around. I think is the most present topic at the moment. Yeah, and for the first subtopic it would be Devnet 2 updates. The first thing that I would like to share is that we shared a reference spec test release last week, and I'll link it in the chat for everyone to see. It basically contains all of the EIPs that are supposed to be included in Devnet 2 for local access list. I don't think there's much to say to it unless other than people should start just trying to use it, test their clients' implementations, and please raise any issues that you find in the R&D Discord so we can take a look. Or if there are any concerns or any other thing, please just raise it so we can try to fix it. All right. Next to that, I think. Let me see. Stefan, are you the call? I think you shared a very nicely comprehensive update in the issue. Would you like to get started on this update?
Yeah, sure. So just in general, I asked Tony if we could maybe push the discussions on Val open PRs, and I just listed the open PRs that we still have. And then as a second point, I kind of went over to see how far clients currently are, and I created a nice table. The main blocker is the slot num EIP. So right now, most clients don't make it through the GLOAS fork because they don't have the engine methods. So it would be great if clients could merge those or maybe give an update on that. as well in a bit. And then also another point is that it would be great to have the flags to enable and disable the block level access list optimizations. That would really unblock some of the repricing efforts. Then I would ask for a quick update on the kind of testing side, how the block level access list is incorporated in the tests to debug that. I think it would be nice for everyone to kind of get an update there. And that we should go like try and get Devnet 2 running on Wednesday. So yeah, first of all, I would hand over to Tony, maybe to talk over, if you're here on the call, go over the individual open PRs.
Yeah, let me quickly pull it up because I don't have it open right now. If I remember correctly, then for Devnet 2, we wanted to have the JSON RPC methods implemented into clients just to allow us to easier debug stuff. Then there was an engine API method. I think we got to consensus in the PR there, basically why we are having those engine API methods. I think we wanted to discuss that in more depth on Wednesday's block level access list breakout call, so I won't go very deep into that one. But yeah, other than that, there's not really much more. Maybe if Felipe is on the call, he might have something to add there with regards to the testing.
Yeah, for now, we the block level access list used to be on the block object for blockchain tests. And since we removed them from the block body, they actually in the 3.0.1 release weren't in the test vectors anymore. But that block body in tests also includes an RLP field. So it's not really representative of a full block body. It just has block information in it. What we did in the last release is we just put the block level access list back in these block objects in the blockchain test. So they are there in this 4.0.0 release, just as they were in the previous file releases.
Thank you. So just one comment regarding these open PRs, either Tony or Felipe or Stefan, is any of those blocking for Devnet 2?
Not any of these necessarily, but it generally would be good to get them merged. So I thought maybe we could speed it up because it seems like, or maybe not all of them, but some of them shouldn't need too much discussion. For example, the one on the execution APIs, adding slot number to fork choice update. I think that one would be great to merge because that's really a blocker for getting past the GLOAS fork for this EIP.
Which number are you referring to?
I will share in the chat.
And just to add to that, so they're basically the three open PRs we're talking about. The first one is about adding the engine API method. So this is not necessarily needed, but depends on which CL client we're using, because I think Loadstar, which we have been using so far, is not blinding the block level access lists, as they are not blinding the transactions, for example, which other clients do. So this is not important in this case if we keep using Loadstar. And the other one is more like an update to the EAP. So if like client is on the call, maybe you could approve that. This was basically regarding your comment on the Discord channel. And the last one is the JSON RPC method. So also not really blocking, but nice to have.
All right, thank you. I think we can move on to the second part of your comment, Stefan. Basically, this is a table let me just share again the command link for everyone to be on the same page. This is the comment that we're referring to. The second bullet point in that comment contains a table. It's basically the status of all the clients. Yeah, I just wanted to go client by client to see how they are in the implementation phase of this. I'll just start with Geth because I think they're the further along in the implementation to see if they have any comments about either the EIPs or the implementation itself. Is anyone from Geth here who wants to comment on this for a block level access list Devnet 2 status?
I might be the only one from Geth here. As far as I know, so we have definitely implemented the three EIPs on top, like Slotnum, and Bell Devnet 2 should also work now. Like the Bell part of Bell Devnet 2 should also work now. So yeah, we are doing a lot of internal refactors to get some of the stuff merged into master. So that is where some of our time is spent. But yeah, as far as I know, we should be okay for Devnet.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on. Besu, I see that you have block level access list on 7708. Any comment on the status? Anything that you want to share?
Yeah,
Over progress?
I can do that. So we have merged 7708, 7778, the gas refunds, and we have merged 8024 swap and dup, and Slotnum is in review. And yeah, for the evlogs, we have merged a version that the previous one that only had the transfer that did not have a special topic for self-destruct. We have also a PR and review that is adding that. So all the EIPs are either merged or in review.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone from Reth that's available?
Yeah, we have everything in progress, no blockers. Just taking a bit more time to review all PRs and should be in by end of day, unless there's some spec changes and we might need to allocate more time.
Thank you. Excellent. Anyone from Nethermind that can share progress?
So we have, I think, everything implemented. There will be probably last few slight changes to slot number. We are currently integrating it to one branch. It's not master, but it's a DevNet 2 branch. And after DevNet 2 will be stabilized, we'll probably integrate everything to master at that point. So that's our plan. Not sure about the gas refunds because there was some additional discussion around it, and Ben was implementing that PR and he's traveling now, so not here. Anything else, Mark, you want to add?
No, nothing else really. I think yeah, we should have all of the new EIPs merged soon.
Yeah, and on 7778, I think we have a comment. I'll get to that in a bit. Let me just try to finish with the rest of the clients. But yeah, there's definitely some open questions and comments. All right. From Aragon, do we have anyone here that can share some updates?
Yeah. So with the bells themselves, we are still finishing some bits and pieces. Yeah, mostly done, and we should be ready this week, hopefully. With 7708, it's in review. with 7778 gas refunds, yeah, we'll probably have a discussion shortly afterwards. But sorry, like it was me who actually wanted to make some changes, but then I realized that it's very difficult to change receipts in Aragon. So we can implement 77, 78 without receipt, like changing the receipt, or with adding only an ephemeral field to the receipt, but it will be very difficult for us to implement it with a persistent field. 7843, we haven't started implementing it yet. I mean, it's probably an easy one, but it's not done yet. And we have merged 8024. So when you say Wednesday, do you mean Wednesday this week or Wednesday next week? Because I think we'll be ready by Wednesday next week, but not by Wednesday this week.
Preferably this week, but I can always, yeah, I mean, it would have been good to be done earlier, like Barnabas said, but generally when I think at least 3 clients are ready, and I hear out that we should have 3 clients ready by Wednesday to launch it. But we can always add clients as they get ready, just to get it started.
Okay.
Also, we can provide help with the consumption of the tests. So we have engine API tests in the release, which includes Selenium. So if you guys need help to run this, please reach out to Felipe or myself, and we can help you out. All right, thanks, Andrew. Anyone from Nimbus, just to finalize the status on the clients?
Yeah. Moment. So yeah, this is in progress. We don't have them yet. I think this week would be ambitious for us. But yeah. Oh, yeah, in progress.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, please keep us updated on the ETH R&D. If you have something ready, please reach out to Stefan so he can help you out to just point you out in the right direction. All right. I think the main discussion point for specific EIP seems to be 7778. Should we just proceed with that? Tony, I think you raised the discussion point on the agenda. Do you have more context or on what you want to discuss regarding 7778?
Yeah, so right now what we got in the specs is using the gas used after the refund. Before the refund in the cumulative gas used in the receipts, and we changed that recently. So this means with EIP 7778, there won't be any receipt changes needed. And clients can just continue dealing with the receipts as they are, for example, in ETH get transaction receipts. And I think Guru has already a PR open for this one, because I think we already merged the other change, and now we need a new PR. Correct me if I'm wrong, Guru, if you're on the call. But I think we can just proceed with merging this. And yeah, the question is more like how much time will clients need to implement that now? How far are clients with 7778? And if this doesn't like delay Devnet 2 because clients are busy with Slotnum anyway, then I would just say we implement that small change and get it into Devnet 2.
Stefan, what's your preference? I think from the testing side, we would have to make the change to spec and just refill the tests, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe subtle changes in the tests, 1 or 2 PRs.
Actually, yeah, on the specs and testing side, we have a draft PR up already, which makes all of these changes. So as soon as we make a decision, we should be good to merge that.
I don't have a strong preference.
Yeah, maybe just to add to that. So this was basically the consensus after some discussion in Discord. So I think at this point, all clients agreed that this is the way how we should proceed. So from that perspective, it's very clear. It's just a matter of, do we want to put it into Devnet 2 or Devnet 3? But this is like, okay, then we would change the receipt now and change it back in Devnet 3. So this change is actually quite a simplification, I would say.
Yes, Andrew?
Well, so for us, yeah, I just initially I thought it would be easy for us to change the receipt format, but then I realized that it would be very difficult. So for us, there is a strong preference for Aragon to implement the version that doesn't require a change to the receipts. Otherwise, we won't be able to. It will take us probably a few weeks, well, at least maybe a couple of weeks to implement the change to the receipt format. So I strongly prefer to do the version that doesn't require the receipt format change now.
Daniel?
Yeah, so from Basil's side, we, as I mentioned before, we have merged 77, 78 as is with the modified receipt. So we will need to revert this back. I cannot 100% guarantee that we could do this until Wednesday. So I mean, how bar Devnet 2 is specified today, we can make it, but if we change this now, it might take us, I don't know, 1 or 2 days to make the actual change back with the testing, I think. So there might be a slight delay for us if we go with that option.
Okay, thank you. There's a nice comment from Dragan in the chat, which is what is better for the protocol. Please think about that. I'll get back to that. Jen, do you have any comments?
Yeah, actually just wanted to plus one on what Dragan said. And from the ref side, we do have right now implemented according to the specs, so we'll also need to make changes. But yeah, I would like to discuss first highlight why we are making this change and what it means to the protocol, aside from how complex it is.
Do you have any comments on what would be better for in general? Someone who's more familiar with this EIP, sorry, in particular, who wants to chime in?
Yeah, so I think it's more an implementation detail. What we're discussing, it's like I cannot really answer how like invasive it is to change the receipt. What the clients I've talked to have been saying that it's not like a crazy thing to do, but of course, not doing it is like easier to implement. So if you look into the specs, as Guru has spec'd it now, it's a very simple change. And what it gives us eventually is just not allowing any transaction to eventually cause more work than it pays for. Or eventually having blocks containing more work than the block gas limit actually enforces. So this is the underlying rationale behind the EIP itself.
Thank you. Yes, Marius?
Yeah, so as I understand this, there are two kind of ways of thinking about this field. Either if we don't change anything, then something for the users might change. So either we change something for the nodes in that we would need to store a secondary field that we will not be able to so we will not be able to just load this data from somewhere and then recompute it. In order to recompute this data, we would need to execute the execute the block. So the only way of kind of getting to this data is to also store it, which would mean we would need to store much more in the database, or like one field per receipt more in the database, per transaction more in the database, which is okay. Because other fields from the receipts we can just load from the block. And they don't really cost us anything storage-wise. And yeah, on the other hand, it might be a usability issue for users. But overall, I think everyone wants this EAP. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, maybe just to add, because this was a great description, and just to add, because Dragan has also had a comment in the chat. So there are two things we want. We need the gas used in a block, right? We need to enforce the block gas limit, and for this, under parallel execution, we need a way to know was the block gas limit obeyed, even though transactions execute on different cores or on different threads. So this was also part of the discussion, why we need to always know like how much did the transaction count against the block gas limit versus how much did the user actually pay. So this has been part of a discussion, and there are two ways to deal with it, and both are fine with block level access lists, and one is without a new receipt field, and the other includes a new receipt field. And right now, I think there is broad consensus that we eventually want to do it without a new receipt field. So it's more like, do we want to delay Devnet 2 launch until next week, which would mean we can implement this change, or do we want to launch it with the old version, but this week?
So you're like 80-90% sure that this is the right way to go to summarize with this change?
Yeah, it feels like it's less invasive, because everything around receipts will stay the same because nothing changes from how clients use receipts today. The only thing that will change and will become a little bit more complex is enforcing the block gas limit when transactions are executed on different threads. Because you can't just take the receipt values and go through the gas limits and check if they could, at this point in time, still fit into the block. But yeah, there are other ways how clients can deal with this, and this was also discussed. So it seems like we don't need many changes to make it work.
Okay, I generally tend, if we can get it in this week, this change, it doesn't have to be Wednesday, but if we can make it this week, then I'm for it, but I wouldn't want to wait until next week.
Yeah, I'm also fine with delaying it. We can also delay it for Devnet 3. It's a small change and shouldn't be a blocker.
Andrew, yes.
Well, if in Devnet 2 we go with the version that requires a receipt change, then probably in Aragon we'll have to skip Devnet 2 because, as I mentioned, for us it's very difficult to change the receipt format. And there is no point in doing that work if it will be scrapped anyway.
Okay, since I think it would be very valuable to have all clients on Devnet 2, otherwise we will lose information. I think delaying for a week seems to be like an okay solution. Is anyone opposed to this change from the rest of the clients? It seems like an easy change for everyone else. All right. If not, I think what we need to do. Sorry, we're talking about 778, Lukasz. We're deciding whether we are going to change the receipt format or not, and just wanted input from the rest of the clients to see if we make another release of the tests in the following days for us to delay Devnet 2 for next week. so we can get this change in, which would make it much easier for everyone to implement the EIP.
So for us, probably doesn't matter much. We can adjust.
Just to raise Dragon's comment, we could do without the field in Devnet 2. Do you mean the change or not the change?
I'm not sure what's specified currently in AIP. Either way, both things are very like nuisances. The main thing is AIP is good. It needs to be included. If we go with the field or without field, yeah, those are details. I guess let's do what's easier. If it's easier to remove that field from the receipt, let's go with that. But I'm fine with that.
All right, and Marius asks Tony if you can make the write-up in the Discord to make sure that everyone's aligned with the same thing. All right. All right. Cool. So yeah, let's move ahead with the ePBS for sake of time. Is anyone here that has more context on ePBS status? Otherwise, we can go to the clients directly to see how is the progress with them implementing ePBS.
Let's start with the clients.
All right. Okay. Let me just go one by one. Anyone from Lighthouse?
Yeah. Lighthouse wise, we're working on some consensus changes right now. So fork choice, payload processing, epoch stuff. And so we're aiming to start interoping like in a Lighthouse only kurtosis network in the following weeks. But there's still a lot of work left to do. But yeah, that's our update.
All right, thank you. Anyone from Teku who wants to share something regarding ePBS?
Yeah, so not much update from Teku compared to last time from the ACDC call last week. But we're having a couple more people working on it, so hopefully we have some local interop on the Teku in the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
All right, thank you. Anyone from Prism who wants to share an update?
I don't see Terrence or Podas, but we're making good progress on all the spec functions, and then we've just started on some of the beacon APIs, and I'll leave it up to Nico to kick us off on the issue, but there is an area that we should align on for beacon API statefulness.
Yeah, definitely. I'll get to that point after client updates. Thank you. Anyone from Nimbus who can share an update?
Sure. So I would say steady progress. So we've been kind of merging into. We learned from Fusaka where we've been merging into trunk. I mean, in a controlled way, but still a continuous way. So we have the envelope processing is kind of, and also we already had a bunch of handling for like obviously the GLOS data columns, but now we're getting, I don't know, I'll just like a flavor here. I'm not a huge amount of detail. But integrating that into the block production specifically, like to not just handling incoming, but creating our own and broadcasting them. So those are the current open PRs. And fork choice is still out there though. And that's, yeah, I think the thing I want to point out about fork choice actually, because this is potentially a bigger issue than just ePBS and a bigger risk factor in terms of deploying this, is we're going to end up having a choice, and this is why I think it's worth spending a little more time on in AC, at least articulating its existence. There's this change in how proposer boost works. Alpha 1 did this, and there's some suggestions that elsewhere, and fine. But the thing is, it is backwards incompatible. Like, at least testing wise, it is. And Nimbus hasn't done this, and a number of other clients haven't implemented the backwards, the previous forks either. Now, what we're going to end up with is a choice of, do we do this all at once for all of the forks, or do we kind of isolate this for GLOAS when we do this, for example, and they have their trade-offs. Anyway, so for choice, that's still out there, yeah. Anyway, so that's where we are.
Thank you. Just to finalize the client side, we can get back to fork choice questions and also the Beacon API afterwards. Lodestar, anyone from Lodestar with updates?
Yeah, so last week we have implemented the fork choice, except for the proposer boost part, and it's actively under review and testing. And we also implemented the builder entity. So we are now passing the operation spec tests of the alpha.1 spec tests. And we are now moving on to block importing and also exploring the state cache architecture.
All right, thank you. Can we just go ahead with the Beacon API discussion, Nico, if you want to take it from there?
Yeah, sure. So I left the summary of the proposed or the options that we have here. So currently how the spec is done is that we have a two-step process for block production, which nicely maps on the internal beacon node state because it's similar to how the P2P works, which has the beacon block separate to the execution payload. But I noticed the problem with that is for local block production that it's stateful, meaning the beacon node that produces the beacon block is the one that also has the payload, and that one needs to be used to produce the execution payload envelope as well. So, and the issue with that is if you have a multi-node setup and stuff like Vouch or Vero that always request from all beacon nodes, this kind of reduces the reliability of the block production. So this is basically the option 1 I listed here, which is the current spec. We have two alternatives I see. The second one is to keep this two-step process that you have to call two APIs, but still call two APIs. But the execution payload request would return all block contents, which also includes the blobs, which is what we currently have. This would allow still to publish to all beacon nodes, so that property would still be there. But you still have the problem that only the beacon node that produced the initial beacon block is able to do that, to return the response for the payload. And then option 3, that would keep it more like the status quo where we call a single API and then for the local block we would return as currently the beacon block, the execution payload and blobs as well. That way the validator client can then sign everything and publish it through all the existing or connected beacon nodes. So this is basically closest to what we have. Some issues there, or there are problems that were raised previously, that blobs, the higher the blob count goes, the more data we have to pass around. I guess especially if you run Vouch or Vero, you want them on different servers. So latency is definitely something we should consider here. But I think, yeah, this keeps it closest to the status quo. It's not as nice from a spec perspective, but so from the initial feedback, it seems like most people are in favor of going with option 3. But yeah, definitely something to get more feedback on.
Any comments from clients? Any preference, basically?
Well, for Devnet 0, we're just going with whatever is we're going with the two-step process, right?
Yeah, let's not change the scope of Devnet 0. Let's aim for all these changes for Devnet 1.
So I guess it depends what's easiest for clients. So one thing with the two-step process is also that the beacon node that produces the block needs to cache the payload and the blobs. So I'm not sure that's currently implemented. Or at least, for example, I think Dustin, you mentioned this might not be desired for you. So I would say clients can just go with whatever is easiest for DevNet 0.
Yeah, we didn't implement the caching yet.
Do we really need to have this standardization for Devnet 0 anyway? So it's kind of just for client interrupts. So we want to speed up everything, is just let clients do the quickest things and then iron out the standardization later.
So I personally don't think we need to standardize this now, or for DevNet 0 at least, but I think it would still be good if we can move ahead with the PR to get this back up to, or to get the PR merged soon, because it's pretty large and there are other changes as well. But yeah, it's not that urgent, I would say.
Nico, just one closing comment. So, what do you need from clients? It's just reviews, or do you need anything else to move this PR forward?
Yeah, so just the general reviews on the PR and then just feedback on what options clients would prefer. I think if there are no good arguments for option 1, like how it's currently spec'd, then we should probably go with option 3 to keep the status quo.
Okay, great. Excellent. So please, clients, if you can chime in into this PR, perhaps not the most pressing issue, but it would be helpful. Please do so. I think the link is on the agenda. I'll also share it here again for everyone to see. Great. Any other comments on this? I wanted to go back to Dustin's comments on fork choice. Do you want to expand on that? Do you feel like we should get something decided on this call, or is it something that, yeah, in general?
Sure. Well, so I see NC also commented on this and basically there was a discussion there. To summarize the Discord discussion briefly, it's that it looks like they are the different fork choice variations, let's say, can coexist. So that so I guess I'm not sure. The only thing that would end up having to be, I think, sort of on this call relevant decided is it like it seems like people are pretty confident that this is in fact a not a breaking change in the way that they say the withdrawals were that would have been a breaking change as it had turned out, that were withdrawn from the pre GOAS setup, but this is the tweaks to the proposer boost and being on the canonical chain and all that, and it's fine if clients do either. And if it's fine if clients do either, then I don't think it's that important to decide now. But like in terms of interoperability.
Yes, Enrico?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, this was just a change that just decided to go backward into phase 0 just because it's covering an edge case. So it was fine to get this to put this change to phase 0. And I feel like maintaining two different versions just because of that tiny change is a complication that we should not do, if this is the question from Dustin. And so if there anything that needs to be updated on the test or align that goes back to phase 0, I would just make this thing test related and not production code related to maintain two different behaviors. And it's actually a bug fix as far as I understood. So I would like to have that from phase 0 and just update tests and have one version.
Okay. I mean, see, I guess the question I wrote though, which is that I'm broadly, as long as pushing back the sort of backporting the changes is safe to the existing production sort of forks, which are obviously for the EF ones, they're Fulu at this point, Fusaka, and then Electra, Pectra. For Gnosis is still on that. So
Right.
as long as it's safe, I don't care at all about pre-Pectra. I
So
don't think most people do.
the actual question is this edge case being exploited on mainnet since the beginning of the beacon chain? And I would say no, but I live.
But can it be? But now that is very public. The question is, if once clients diverge in their implementations, is this a wedge that an attacker can use? And is it actually, and crucially, is it worse to have that wedge than it is to have a suboptimal proposer boost implementation? Like, I haven't seen a real analysis of this. Just like, whatever, just do it. Go ahead. YOLO. And that's not sufficient.
All right. I wanted to see if Justin, could you chime in on this? Do you see this as a problem, or we should time box this discussion just for the sake of continuing on to other topics? Yeah.
I don't have much to say really. I mean, I wish Francesca were here to chime in. We can chat about this more on Discord, I think, but I don't believe there are issues. Like, I don't think there can be I don't think that a divergence in implementations of this will cause issues. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, if you want to bring this topic into the 8th R&D Discord, Dustin, just for clarification, yes, please do so we can continue async. Is that okay? All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Let's move on. Anything else related to ePBS that we should discuss in this call, or anyone wants to bring up?
I can very quickly mention that we are working on specs for the next DevNet. So Alpha 2 release. I have made an issue with deadlines in this, so we plan on freezing the specs on February 6th and making the release on February 13th, just so there's time to iron out any issues. FYI. I shared a link in the chat. Yes, that's correct. And there are just 2 open PRs at the moment. The changes to the minimum builder withdrawal delay and the variable PTC deadline PR by Francesca.
All right, thank you. Excellent. Yeah, I think the next topic is gas benchmarking. Anything that we want to discuss in this call today, or any updates anyone wants to bring up?
So nothing in particular for now. I'm in discussion on the new version of gas benchmarks, which is done by EF DevOps team right now. In meantime, we are working on repricings. We got some messages from Maria that data is right now better, and working in meantime on stateful testing to push the data for stateful scenarios to decide on the repricings for those opcodes. And that would be basically it. So for now, the data analysis is happening.
All right, thank you. Great. Anything else regarding gas repricings or benchmarking?
On the team side, I will try to create a benchmark release that supports Osaka, that tries to run the benchmark under Osaka 4 this week.
Excellent. Thank you, Luis. Good. Okay. If nothing else, we can go into the last two topics for this call. The first one is regarding process, and specifically the CFI EIP to Devnet process, which is what we generally talk about during this call. I made a comment on the issue agenda the last couple of days, and basically, I think we should have like more defined and clearer process for everyone to when we want to move something from CFI into Devnet, because I think there's definitely some room for improvement regarding how this was handled in this Devnet, and definitely we can improve. So what I share here is basically just a suggestion that maybe we can follow. I think the main issue was the first point that we didn't do properly for this Devnet, which is that every EIP that is gonna be proposed for inclusion in a Devnet, we should post it ahead of time in the ACDT agenda for every client to review, to chime in, to raise any objections and suggest alternatives. After that, if there are no major issues or major objections raised by the clients, that is then brought up in during the call, and for a second chance for objections. And if there's none, then just basically we start working on the EIPs that have been just approved by everyone in the Devnet. Nevertheless, if after that point we still discover that there are issues that only are surfaced when the implementation has started by the clients, or the implementation has started by the specs and tests, the EIP should be proposed for removal from the Devnet and just defer to a future Devnet at any point, if that's the case. And the last bullet point is basically that this call should never be used to make decisions regarding CFI to SFI, moving of the status of an EIP, or CFI to DF5. They will not be discussed during this call. Basically, that is still need to be discussed within ACDE and ACDC. This is basically a place for discussion just for anything that we want to add that has already been approved as CFI in the ACDE or ACDC, and we discuss it here just to move into a Devnet to start testing procedures. Having said that, I just want to hear from people. Basically, if this sounds like a good idea. Any comments or on how this should be handled in the future, if there's any issues with this process, other than that, what is raising this comment? And one comment from Ansgar is Devnet inclusion decision not basically an SFI decision? Yeah, Ansgar?
Yeah, and I mean, it was just something that came to mind, because I feel like, to me, yeah, the inclusion of an EIP into a DevNet at least means that now, if we end up not actually SFIing it, not having it be included in the fork in the end, then that was of course extra effort that might have been wasteful in retrospect. And so I feel like there's this very real tension. On the one hand, I think making all DevNet decisions only on ACDE or something, or ACDC, of course, that adds extra friction. So in principle, I do like the idea of just continuing to do that on ACDT. But then on the other hand, it feels like kind of like just saying, oh, but like we move the SFI decision over. That in a sense on its own also seems a bit artificial. So I don't know. I was just curious how you think about that tension between the DevNet decision and the status decision.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't suggest that on ACDT we decide on a big EIP to be included in a DevNet. That would be erratic. For example, the ones in this round, uh, basically because they are easy, quote unquote, to implement. But yeah, that proved as always like to be not the case, not the exact case for all the EIP. So it's never gonna be like silver bullet that we decide on the easiest or things to add to DevNet that are the easiest. Definitely we shouldn't include in ACDT something that is very big like block level access list or something of a bigger complexity in my opinion. But yeah, I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm not sure if we should decide on ACDE what to include on DevNet or we should do it here. Barnabas, do you have any opinion on this, or Stefan, do you have a...
Yeah, so basically, I think that CFI status is basically every EIP that we want to have implemented, whether it's going to be included in mainnet or not, is going to be up to ACD later on in ACDE or ACDC. But every single CFI EIP should be implemented by the client, and then we can evaluate if it's actually something that we want to SFI and actually want to push out on mainnet. So I think making the CFI to SFI decision is up to ACDE and ACDC, but whether or not to implement CFI EIP should really be up to ACDT. And just, I think ordering it on which EIP should be implemented first the decision can be made on this call.
Yeah, I also generally agree with that. And I think like only because you have an implementation doesn't mean that it's going to go into the protocol. You should really have a working implementation before the spec is really finalized and before we have a clear idea if it's something we want in the protocol. So generally, I think that's a good suggestion, Mario.
I also feel that we gain a lot of information about EIPs once we start implementing, because before that it's like a best guess scenario, while when we add things to the DevNet, we end up like really knowing the EIPs, problems, issues, and implementation details that turn out to be perhaps something much more difficult to implement. I would like to ask client devs, how do you feel about this in general, or and there's another comment from Ansgar. What's the general connection between implementation and DevNet? Are they usually any implementations before DevNet inclusion? How easy it is to pull individual EIPs back out of a DevNet? This is just personal.
It depends,
Yeah,
right?
it depends.
Like, how big of an EIP are we talking about? If it's one line change, it's very easy to revert. If it's a very significant change, then yeah, the bigger, the harder it is.
It's not just sheer size. I would say we saw this in Pectra for sure, that we had EIPs and to some degree Fusaka, not individually huge, but they were three or four of them very intertwined. They all changed the same code, the same data structures, the same SSC objects, and effectively, I mean, yeah, they were different EIPs, but they were one unit of change, practically speaking, in terms of implementing them. And it would be almost as much effort to remove one as to implement, at least for Nimbus, as to have implemented all of them together almost. Yeah.
Tony, I don't think there's a conclusion. Yeah, one last question from Ansgar. Would it be too bureaucratic to have an initial decision on the DevNet scope, but then a week later on the next ACDT make a go, no-go decision? That way clients would have a week to look at the selected EIPs and start implementation. So we could catch the EIPs that are more complex than expected.
That's way too much overhead, in my opinion. Ansgar.
Okay, yeah, sorry for all the questions. I was just, kind of from the ACDE kind of side, I was trying to understand things a bit better. But yeah, no, I mean, makes sense then. I was just curious.
I think, yeah, definitely we should be more careful about which EIPs, because even though they look like one-liners, that's not always the case. But I think this process can definitely evolve. If we catch something, an EIP, for example, that is suggested to go into DevNet, and someone sees that this is not feasible, we'll make sure that we want to share on the agenda prior to the call, just for everyone to like raise the question either during the call or before even, for us to like try to minimize the burden. Also, this raises the question whether when are more complex EIPs going to make the cut, which is, I think, that's something that we have to keep discussing. We're out of time at the moment. But yeah, definitely, and I don't think it's resolved. I don't think there's like a perfect process anyway. So we can bring up this topic again in next week's call if necessary. There was just one more open comment by Pooja. I just want to very quickly give you the chance to share it, Pooja, if that's okay, before we close the call.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mario. I wanted to share a few things, few PRs which are made for BPO related stuff. Thank you, Mario, for sharing that. So in the first PR, I have requested to open a folder for BPO in order to keep track of progress and everything that general community would want to see. And this folder is suggested on Ethereum/PM GitHub repository. Apart from it, there are other two PRs in the eIPS repositories, and those are with respect to the meta EAP for BPO1 and BPO2. In a way, BPO1 and BPO2 are also the network upgrade, the hard fork parameters only, but it reaches the stature of a hard fork. So I believe that there should be meta EAP for these two BPOs as well, and we should make meta EAP for upcoming BPOs upgrade. I have added the link to these meta EAPs. Kindly take a look and yeah, just let us know your opinion. There were a couple of open questions that I wanted to share with this group here to decide and let us know. I would love to hear from the team if there is any preference in representation of BPO when we are documenting it. There are three different styles. It could be BPO1, BPO space 1, and BPO-1, whatever is preferred way. I have used BPO1 in the EIP, but if there is any other preference, please let us know. And I'm happy to update the proposal. And also, if we can get an estimate on how many BPO upgrades we are expecting a year, that would also be helpful in making a decision. I have tried to list most of the obvious question in the Fellowship of Ethereum Magician for people to refer to. If there is any strong opposition for this EIP, please drop a comment, and general support as well as any suggestion to improve this proposal are already welcome. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.